the good friends, the ones we hold dear, the ones who will tell us what we need to hear, the ones who love us, right or wrong. And to all those good friends that give you this song.
Well, hello, good friends, and welcome back to The Last Walk, Remember When, with your host, Ron Baumbach. And we're going back in time again to the fun times. We're going to review a very famous group for the next few weeks. So, get up off your easy chair, walk over to your stove, get a piping hot cup of tea, and reach up in the cupboard, get some Cadbury chocolates, walk over to your easy chair, turn on your lava lamp, close your eyes, it's storytelling time. The Last Walk is back.
Life is too short, we get only one turn. With luck we find beauty, but we sometimes get burned. But if you've had a true friend, or perhaps love, you've experienced the peace of heaven above.
Yes, friends, we're back. We're reviewing a group that is very famous, part of our culture for the past probably 60 years. And they were influenced by a man named Lonnie Donegan, who was the king of skiffle. Skiffle, a combination of American folk, jazz, and the blues. Lonnie was a British fella who sang many, many songs of skiffle. Here's the king of skiffle with one song I'm sure you'll recall.
I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh Lord, pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my buddy gonna pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of day. I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. I'm gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Me and old Bill gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and old Bill gonna pick a bill of day. Me and old Bill gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and old Bill gonna pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh Lord, pick a bill of day. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of cotton. Oh my Lord, pick a bill of day. Gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bill. Gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around, pick a bill. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Hey, me and my wife gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my wife gonna pick a bill of day. Me and my wife gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my wife gonna pick a bill of day. Oh Lord, oh my 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 Lord. I'm gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bill of cotton. Jump down, turn around, every day I'm gonna jump down, turn around, pick a bill of cotton. Jump down, turn around, every day. Me and my wife gonna pick a bill of cotton. Me and my Lord, pick a bill of day. Me and my wife gonna pick a bill of cotton. My wife gonna pick a bill of day. My Lord, oh my Lord, my Lord, jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day. Jump down, turn around and pick a bill of cotton. Gonna jump down, turn around and pick a bill of day.
Now, while that song, recorded by Lonnie Donegan, came out later on in the 60s, the influence of skiffle was what led a gentleman named John Lennon, a mere 16-year-old high school kid, and his friends Pete Shotton, Eric Griffith, and Bill Smith, to get together and form a band called the Blackjacks. They tried to get some gigs along the way as young fellas. John Lennon's mom taught them how to play banjo and led the banjo influence in their musical attributes. Then they went on, they figured, let's change our name. Let's call ourselves the Quarrymen, from their high school, the Quarry High School, which is very interesting for me, because I was a youngster. My mom always told us about her dad, my grandfather, who grew up in the Liverpool area, in a suburb called Wigan. So we were always connected to this wonderful town where the Beatles eventually became prominent. My granddad obviously didn't play guitar, didn't sing, as long as we didn't know that, but it was a connection we have in our family. So back in the day in 1957, the Quarrymen auditioned for a TV show, TV Star Search, by a guy named Carol Levi's at the Empire Theater. They didn't qualify. Then on July 6, 1957, they had a performance at the St. Peter's Woolton Parish Church in Liverpool, England. They went up on the stage and they sang a couple of sets. Some of those were including these songs: Elvis Presley's Baby Let's Play House and Lonnie Donegan's Putting on the Style. We'll play them now for your entertainment pleasure, realizing that in 1994, Sotheby's sold these for £78,500, which would be now about $97,000 US. At the time, it was a record for a musical set sold in an auction. It was purchased by EMI Records, but EMI decided not to put it out because the quality was not that great. You can decide. So what do you think? While they were setting up to play before the show started, a fellow named Ivan Vaughn, who was a sometime tea-chest bass player, introduced to the band one of his classmates from Liverpool Institute, a 15-year-old young lad named Paul McCartney. So Paul sat and listened and watched the Quarrymen perform at the St. Peter's Woolton Church. After the show, a bunch of them went out to a pub, lied about their age, and they had a little couple of pops. Now afterwards, Pete Shotton, one of Lennon's original friends and the original member of the Quarrymen, discussed the young Paul McCartney, whether or not to invite him to join the group. They were up in the air. I think Shotton was more for it and John Lennon was more questioning it. Lennon was the real perceived leader of the group, and would this young Paul McCartney take over his leadership role? They went back and forth. Finally, Lennon decided it's best to bring this young talent into the group. But it wasn't quite that simple. McCartney mulled over the suggestion presented by Pete Shotton, and 2 weeks later, while bicycling through the town of Liverpool, he met up upon this young Pete Shotton, who once again brought up the idea about joining the Quarrymen. Paul thought about it, and said, let's make it happen, which they did. And the Quarrymen added a new player named Paul McCartney. Now, while this was happening, there was a young fellow named George who rode the bus along with Paul back and forth to their school, the Liverpool Institute. And they would chat, they would jam, they would talk about music, etc. And one day Paul decided to question John and say, why don't we bring in a third guitar player? And then so McCartney suggested to George, why don't you audition? So on top of a double-decker bus, as they're riding through the streets of Liverpool, George took out his guitar and played a song from Bill Justice, Raunchy, which was a number 2 hit back in 1957. Initially, John was somewhat concerned because George was still shy of 15, a few weeks shy of it. And John Lennon was a ripe old age of 17, but he decided the talent was there and let's bring George on board, which he did.
Here's to good friends, the ones we hold dear, the ones who will tell us what we need to hear, the ones who love us, right or wrong, and to all those good friends that give you this song.
So now we fast play the tape. A few months later, they've been practicing and rehearsing, recording, trying to record. They get together 17 pounds and 6 pence. They go to a recording studio in Liverpool, England, on July 9, 1958. And they record their first 2 songs. One, a Buddy Holly classic called That'll Be the Day. And one, a song written by Paul McCartney, and no, not John Lennon, but Paul McCartney and George Harrison, called In Spite of All the Danger. Let's take a listen.
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye, yeah, that'll be the day when you make me cry. You say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die. Well, you give me all your loving and your loving, all your hugs, kisses and your money too. You say you love me, baby, after you tell me, baby, that someday, well, I'll be through, 'cause that'll be the day when you make me cry. That'll be the day when you say goodbye. You say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die. Day when I die, well, the Cupid shot is off, he's shouting at your heart, so it's forever far, so I'll leave too, and you say it's for me, and you tell me for it that someday, well, I'll be through, 'cause that'll be the day, when you say goodbye, yeah, that'll be the day, when you make me cry, you say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die, yeah, that'll be the day. That'll be the day. That'll be the day. That'll be the day. In spite of all the danger, in spite of all that may be, I'll do anything for you, anything you want me to, if you'll be true to me. In spite